Hello everyone, this is Deepika from Informa Markets India. A very warm welcome and good evening to everyone. We have with us industry specialists with us to discuss on gold, all why it is always a strategic asset. Introducing the speakers with us are Mr. Somasundaram PR, Managing Director, India World Gold Council, Mr. Shivanshu Mehta, Head Bullion MCX, Mr. Pinakin Dave, Deputy General Manager, Products and Business Development, BSc Limited, Mr. Kunal Shah, Head of Commodities Research, Nirmal Bang Securities Private Limited, Mr. Shantibhai Patel, Chairman, Gem and Jewelry Trade Council of India, Mr. Ajay Mathur, Senior Banker, Regulator and Commodity Specialist based in Dubai. Our moderator for today, Mr. Surendra Mehta, National Secretary, India Bullion and Jewelers Association Limited. I welcome you all. Over to you, Mr. Surendra Mehta ji.
Hello, good evening, everyone. Uh, uh, it's going to be a very fantastic panel with all industry experts with us. Somasundaram ji, Kunal, Ajay Mathur, Shivanshu, Pinakin, Santibhai, everybody, all very well known in the industry. Uh, Gold is really a strategic asset as far as the year 2020 is concerned. But I was reading today morning only the World Gold Council report, Som Sundaram sir, and it says that the gold demand in the current year, in the first quarter, has fallen by 46%, and in the second quarter, it has fallen by about 53%. And Indian demand on a year-to-year basis in the quarter two has fallen by 74%, while Chinese demand has fallen only by 33%. So these were very interesting analysis. In spite of fact that gold demand has gone down so much, uh, which are the reason, Som Sundaramji, uh, why we called gold always a strategic asset?
Well, it's exactly the the answer is just before us. If you see, the demand is low in any other commodity. When your demand comes down, physical demand, you will see that the prices also come down. Now that's the beauty of gold. While price plays a big part in demand, it's not demand which always drives the price in the short run. Demand is driven by factors which otherwise affect economies, currencies. US interest rate is one of the very key reason for movement in prices. Therefore, what you see is the price as it has gone up. You are seeing that consumers are waiting to see whether this price is sustainable. And that's the normal thing. When you're going to buy a gold for 20 grams today, you got to shell out something like 1,20,000. Now, if you're going to put that much of money, you want to see whether this price will hold, or after you buy at 1,20,000, it will come down. So people are cautious, but after a while they'll say, oh, no, even if it is there, it is now in the range of 60,000, 55,000. So let me go and buy. Even if it comes down by 2,000 and goes up by 2,000, it's not a problem because it's a 7-year asset for me, a 10-year asset for me, or it's for the wedding, So the point is gold, while demand long-term is an important factor of gold, consumer demand. In the short run, if you see when consumer demand comes down, ETF demand goes up, investment demand through ETFs, which is what we have seen in these first half. While you spoke about consumer demand 74% down, and in China it's also down. Almost all consumer markets are down, 40% down this quarter. All consuming markets, that is jewelry and bars and coins. But if you really look at the ETF market in the West, it has had unprecedented inflows. The total ETF as of June end, that is exchange traded funds, stands at $205 billion. And the inflows in the first half have even exceeded 2009, soon after the crisis. So that's how the gold balances it out. When jewelry consumers don't want it, investment community comes in. When investment community feels that, okay, gold price is no longer going to be very volatile and I don't want to do it, then consumers find it attractive to buy. That's the self-balancing nature of gold.
Okay, you made some very interesting sir, that the beauty of gold is when the normal demand is down, still the prices goes up. Kunal, may I ask you this important question? Why it happens? Why when the consumer demand is down, the gold prices still goes up? And how gold prices behave in the international market? We have when this lockdown started, we have seen in some of the countries people queuing up to sell the gold. But suddenly we found that situation no longer exists. Now everybody wants to buy gold. They don't want to buy jewelry, but everybody wants to buy bullion. What is the reason? What is happening? This is something very interesting. See, when the lockdown started, we all felt, even I felt, that the prices can go down, but the prices jumped like anything, almost 35 to 40%. So Kunal, your briefing on this.
Yeah, so first of all, thanks a lot for inviting me in this esteemed panel. And the answer to your question, well, when you think about the gold demand, I think it is very simple to understand. Gold demand is basically comprising of two components. One is the love demand, another is the fear demand. So it is love demand is the demand which the Indian women, or for that matter, the people buy jewelry. That is basically a love demand. So people love wearing gold. So love demand in India is always has been price sensitive, number one, and number two, it has nothing to do with the price. So in 2007, 8, 9, when we saw the first major bull run last decade, that time also the love demand remained relatively low. So what is basically driving which demand? It is the fear demand. So fear demand is something which is always driving gold, not the love demand. So we have seen the gold prices correcting and Indian demand also really India's, China's demand, also robust jewelry demand. And at that time, gold prices have corrected. So I think it is always fear demand which basically drives gold prices. And this time, the fear demand is so intense from last 5 to 6 months that we have not seen this kind of rally in gold at such a high base. So we have seen in last 6 months, gold prices have risen to almost $2,100. And from where? So 35 to 40% return in a commodity like gold. So this shows that how much fear is penetrating in the system. And I quite rightly say it is always, the fear demand. The higher the fear amongst the investors, amongst the people, the higher the gold prices shoots up. And so generally, what happens in India, people say that the demand is not there. Why the gold prices are moving up? So the love demand has no major role in determining the outlook of gold anymore.
Thank you, Kunal. So basically, two major punchline from Som sir and Kunal. Kunal says it is the love demand and fear demand, and Som Sundaram sir says the prices do not get along with the demand. The prices can be higher when the demand is poor. It is because I'll come back to Som sir on this lady, but let me first ask Ajay Mathurji. Ajay Mathurji, you have been always in Dubai, and whenever we come to Dubai, it looks like a city of gold. And the moment you are landed at the airport, you find a lot of gold shops and the gold market in Dubai. These are popular destinations. What is happening in Dubai at the current moment, and why Dubai is an important hub, and what is the difference between Dubai, gold in Dubai and gold in other countries?
Right. Thank you for the question, Surendra. I hope you're able to hear me properly.
Yes.
Okay. So I think for understanding the market of Dubai as to why it's an important hub in the global precious metals markets, we have to look at a few things. One is the speed at which the economy works here. Second is the quality of what gets sold in the market. Third is the cost effectiveness of the products that are sold. We are talking about both gold and jewelry here. There is no red tapeism. There is transparency in the system. The regulations are effective. There is ease of doing business, which is very important. There is a modern world-class infrastructure available here. But in all of this, on the one side, there is other important factor as well. So these are all economic business factors that benefit Dubai. If we take a step back and we look at the geographic location of Dubai, it's right in the middle of the world. If you look at Dubai's connections with various countries, so Dubai has had historical, socio-economic, political, and cultural links with various countries. India, for instance, has had such old relationship and ties between the two countries on the one hand, and countries like in Africa, for instance. So add to this the other countries that Dubai has been able to forge relationships recently, more recent as compared to India, for instance, North America as well as Latin America, or Europe, and China, and Far East, Hong Kong and Singapore, for instance. And then you look at the connectivity that is provided by the airlines. So daily flights to so many destinations around the world, which makes a difference to the business that flows between various countries and Dubai. And finally, add to that more than 175 nationalities that live in a small place like Dubai. So what it brings together is in itself a natural hub for business. Now, if you look at the Indian market, for instance, and the relationship between Dubai and India, a lot of jewelry that gets manufactured in Dubai, in India, comes to Dubai. And similarly, a lot of jewelry that gets manufactured in other countries like Italy and Singapore and Hong Kong and other countries, they come to Dubai. The jewelry wholesalers have the economies of scale here. So what happens is people find it cheaper to buy, say, Indian jewelry here in Dubai than in India itself. I'm talking about making charges. It's because of the economies of scales that it provides. So you have the infrastructure, and then the quality is assured. So if somebody is selling 22 karat jewelry, it has to be 22 karat. So otherwise, the business is run the risk of fines and even cancellation of licenses. So there is that effective imposition of regulations here that you cannot sell lower quality. So the quality, along with the competitive prices and the infrastructure that Dubai has created, along with the links with various countries and the so many nationalities living here, make it a natural hub of business. And add to that the fact that both diamond and jewelry sector contributes around 27% to the non-oil foreign trade of Dubai. It is a testament in itself that it contributes a major share to Dubai's economy.
Thank you, Ajay-ji. Shrivanshu-ji, commodity exchanges have been playing a very, very important role in the last 2-3 years in the gold market. And as we go along, gold is becoming most important commodity. How do you think commodity exchange will help making gold a real asset class?
Right. No, so Surendraji, definitely before me, the three experts who've spoken, who've talked about, the prices being high, and then in the same backdrop, consumer demand has been showcased as, shifting towards investment items rather than just jewelry. So in this kind of a shift, or in this kind of a consumer demand towards assets which are electronic in nature, or even for trading demand, or for products which are deliverable, in all these aspects, a commodity exchange definitely comes in. You see, because a commodity exchange has to cater to a variety of needs. One is of the retail consumers whom we are paraphrasing here. At the same time, there is a hedger who is actually willing to give up the risk out of his books, as opposed to a speculator who's taking on that risk. So we have to cater to hedgers, we have to cater to the retail consumers, to traders, speculators, and the entire spectrum of people who want to, have a say in the gold or silver prices, or who want gold and silver to be part of their portfolios. So one of the most important aspects of doing so is the price. A price has to be acceptable. It has to be a product of liquid and diverse participation. So price and liquidity are two important aspects which an exchange can bring to the table. And as regards the correlation in price movements between not only the international markets, but also the domestic markets, these are the enablers which provide the retail customer with a tool to invest, as well as they provide the hedger a perfect platform to give up that risk. So the enablers are price, which is in our case a composite mix of the prevailing international prices, the currency as in the exchange rate, as well as the custom duty tariff, which changes twice a month, and the currency which is used to calculate it. So all these factors play into the price. Now, as far as the retail is concerned, since that is the primary focus here, asset class, I'll very quickly iterate before you. The experience what we've had over the lockdown period since this asset class came into flavor more is not only the volumes. The volumes are for everyone to see. We are 64% higher than the previous year already on a YTD basis in bullion at 18,470 crores versus 11,257. As regards August, the numbers are stellar. We are at 34,000 plus crores. Now, it's not just important to talk about the turnover. What we are noticing is that the retail products which took birth on our product design desk over the past 6 to 12 months are seeing a phenomenal participation. A 1 gram gold contract, which is a sort of an index of retail activity, according to me, it used to be just 2 crores 2 years back. In August, it has clocked a turnover of 67 crores from 2 crores. It's a small product for us. The benchmark products are doing much better, but then this is an enabler for retail investment. That is why I'm talking about it. Similarly, silver, it has seen 20,000 coins, incidentally, over the past 10, 11 months being delivered. Silver mini and micro has seen more than 10 tons of silver in 1 kg format bars delivered via contracts. The most important product for a portfolio-based approach to investment is the bullion index, which we are, shortly presenting before the markets on the 24th of August. Even Surendra Bhai has mentioned in other platforms that, it has been an empirically proven fact that a portfolio which has commodity as a diversifier vis-a-vis any single asset portfolio, it performs better in terms of return, and it reduces the beta or the volatility as such. So keeping these things in mind, this index is our latest offering, which we humbly will bring to the market, which will further create organized ways in which to invest in gold as an asset class. Other than that, options have recently been a success in terms of the option on futures in the gold kilo contract, as well as in the silver 30 kg contract. That is seeing participation whenever there is volatility. So you have to let people, accumulate the asset electronically. We have the Comrisk system which enables that. At the same time, we allow for hedging by way of the futures and options contracts. This is our humble contribution as we go along.
Thank you, Shivanshuji. Nicely explained. I'll just share one interesting thing with all of you. Very recently, there is a website called iWoo Money, which is basically an website they make a lot of videos for women in the country, how women can make money. So one of them, she was known to me. So she came to me and she said, gold versus equity, please share some 10-minute video with us. So it is on my Facebook page. And I just asked her, asked the lady, here I'm giving you a 10-gram coin, and here I'm giving you a list of all the equities. You have 50,000 rupees with you. You decide what you want to buy. And in a matter of 5 minutes, she could not decide what is to be done, because that list of equity consists of at least 6,000 stocks, and gold was only one stock. So I said, since you cannot decide, what will decide? So you better buy gold. So I said, you may end up buying you may not end up buying Infosys, you may end up buying DSQ software also. And you will lose all the money. So better buy gold. And this idea went very well. And I think it is getting a lot of hits on the Facebook. Anyway, coming back to Pinakin, you have an international bullion exchange in the GIFT City. You have an exchange in the GIFT City. We are yet to start the international bullion exchange. So Pinakin, how different is that exchange in making gold as an asset class vis-a-vis the exchange which we have in domestic area?
Good evening to all the esteemed panelists, and good evening all. So, Surendra, as you asked about the GIFT City, the international exchange that is set up is India INX, which is in the GIFT City of Gujarat region. Coming to that, we have launched gold contract there as well, which is a replica of the dollar denominated contract which is traded on the CME. And the beauty is this contract is a 1 kg contract, which is the flavor for an Indian to trade, and which is much more easier for us to trade and to correlate. So the intent was to create a market which has been shifted overseas with the likes of places like Dubai and Hong Kong or the other places. And we've seen so far a very phenomenal response as far as trading is concerned. We've been able to see a steep rise in the volumes as well, and the participation has been quite encouraging and upcoming. In a span of 2.5 years, we've been able to do more than 100 million a day. So that itself is encouraging, and we've seen participation from other players as well. The FPIs are coming on board and are planning to explore setting up the desk in India and exploring the GIFT City products which are launched there. And we intend to launch other products as well in the GIFT City, for which can be a replica of the overseas markets, so that the trade which is exported to the overseas markets comes back to India.
Thank you, Pinapkin. I think very little is known about the GIFT City. As we go along, for the setting up of international bullion exchange in the GIFT City and refinery in the GIFT City, probably we'll know a lot, and we all need to learn a lot about it. And I think with the help of World Gold Council, we are all will definitely learn a lot of things in the GIFT City. And कमिंग बैक टू शांति भाई, आप मुझे ये बताइए, मैंने सबसे पहले ये पूछा था कि ज्वेलरी का मार्केट में इंडिया में 74% डिमांड कम हो गई है. वर्ल्ड गोल्ड काउंसिल की रिपोर्ट है, सेकेंड क्वार्टर में 74% डिमांड कम हो गई है. तो ऐसा क्यों हो रहा है कि इंडियन मार्केट में, और हमने पिछले कई सालों से देखा है कि ज्वेलरी के अंदर धीरे धीरे लोगों का अट्रैक्शन कम होता जा रहा है, और लोगों का अट्रैक्शन शायद बुलियन की तरफ जा रहा है या दूसरे गोल्ड के प्रोडक्ट की तरफ जा रहा है. ऐसा क्यों होता है शांति? शांति भाई
unmute.
शांति भाई
Unmute. Somebody has to unmute him.
शांति भाई अनम्यूट कीजिए ना आप. आपका आवाज बंद है शांति भाई.
हेलो.
हाँ अभी आई आवाज. यस.
सबसे पहले तो ये बात जो इफेक्ट हुई है, जो अपना कोविड की जो इफेक्ट हुई है पूरी वर्ल्ड वाइज इंडिया वाइज, उसी के हिसाब से ज्वेलरी मार्केट की डिमांड भी कम हुई है. ये अभी 6 महीने की मैं बात कर रहा हूँ. 2 विजन है. एक तो गोल्ड का जो रेट बढ़ता है तो सब लोग क्या सोचते हैं कि हम बुलियन में इन्वेस्टमेंट करें. बुलियन का जो इन्वेस्टमेंट करने के पीछे उनका जो बाकी का जो खर्चा लगता है बुलियन में कम लगता है. दूसरी जो चीज है, अपने जो मार्केट की बात करते हैं, गोल्ड का जो रेट बढ़ा है तो ग्रामीण लेवल की जो ग्राहकी है वो है अच्छी है थोड़ी, पर जो सिटी के जो बायर्स है उनकी जो डिमांड है वो एवरेज आप देखोगे 3, 4, 5 साल से तो सिटी के बाहर के जो लग्जरीज प्रोडक्ट दूसरी जो खरीद कर रहे हैं, इसमें ज्वेलरी में उनकी डिमांड कम होती जा रही है। इसका 2-3 विजन है। वो लोग दूसरी जगह पे इन्वेस्टमेंट भी कर रहे हैं, पर शायद मैं मानता हूं कि डायमंड ज्वेलरी का थोड़ा इन्वेस्टमेंट रहता है, पर प्लेन गोल्ड और सिल्वर की जो डिमांड पहले थी वो मेरे हिसाब से बहुत धीरे धीरे कम हो रही है। तो उसके हिसाब से 2 चीज को ध्यान रखना चाहिए अपने को। जो मेन प्रमोशन मार्केट होना चाहिए, सबसे अच्छा है गोल्ड सिल्वर, दोनों में जो इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हैं, चाहे ये कंज्यूमर की तरफ से करते हैं, ग्राहक की तरफ से करते हैं, अगर इन्वेस्टमेंट की तरफ से करते हैं, तो उनको सबसे ज्यादा रिटर्न मिलता है जेम एंड ज्वेलरी सेक्टर में। उसके सिवाय इलेक्ट्रॉनिक में भी नहीं मिलता है, दूसरी जगह पे भी नहीं मिलता है। इसमें दूसरा एक कारण होता है गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी। ये बात देखो कि गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी हर जगह पे जेम एंड ज्वेलरी सेक्टर को डिस्टर्ब करने वाली है। आप देखो, चाहे कस्टम ड्यूटी की हो, इनकम टैक्स की हो, जीएसटी की हो, अभी नई पॉलिसी में आपका ही एक सुझाव आया था कि पुरानी ज्वेलरी जो आप बेचने को जाएंगे इसमें भी जीएसटी काटेंगे। तो मैं मानता हूँ ये गवर्नमेंट पॉलिसी है, पैन कार्ड हो, ये करो वो करो, तो इसके हिसाब से कंज्यूमर बहुत डिस्टर्ब होते हैं। ग्राहक को क्या होता है, एक प्लेटफॉर्म अच्छा होना चाहिए। अगर उनको बोले कोई डॉक्यूमेंट दो, तो ये ज्वेलरी शॉप में डॉक्यूमेंट देने के लिए तैयार नहीं होते। होटल में होते जाते तो अपना पैन कार्ड लेके रूम बुक करते हैं। हम ज्वेलर्स के वहां कोई ग्राहक आते हैं, उनसे मांगते हैं कि भैया, वो बोले किस लिए। सुरेंद्र भाई, ये बहुत बड़ा इश्यू है अपनी इंडस्ट्री में, चाहे बड़े प्लेटफॉर्म हो, बड़े शोरूम हो, चाहे छोटा शोरूम है, डॉक्यूमेंट लेने के लिए कोई तैयार नहीं। और दूसरा क्या है, जेंट्स लोग क्या बोलते हैं वुमेन्स को कि भाई आप ज्वेलरी में आपका जो खुद का सेविंग है वो सेविंग से ज्वेलरी परचेस करते हैं, पर जो शादी के हिसाब से बड़ी जो शॉपिंग होती है वो थोड़ी थोड़ी कम हो रही है। 2-3 विजन बहुत कुछ बड़ा है। मैं मानता हूँ कि जेम एंड ज्वेलरी सेक्टर को पूरे हिंदुस्तान में ज्यादा लोग को रोजगारी देता है, प्रदूषण नहीं फैलाता है, अच्छी तरह से गवर्नमेंट को ये सेंटर में भी अच्छी तरह से थोड़ा सपोर्ट करना चाहिए। वो हुंडियामन के हिसाब से, डॉलर के हिसाब से वो गवर्नमेंट की एक पॉलिसी रहती है कि हमारा पैसा ज्यादा नहीं जाना चाहिए, पर मैं मानता हूँ रोजगारी ज्यादा में ज्यादा देती है जेम एंड ज्वेलरी सेक्टर, करना चाहिए। कृषि के लिए इतना करते हैं, किसानों के लिए इतना करते हैं, दूसरी लोगों के लिए इतना करते हैं, मध्याह्न भोजन में इतना पैसा डालते हैं, तो जेम एंड ज्वेलरी सेक्टर नहीं चलेगा। वुमेन जहाँ है वो इंडिया में, वहां तक जेम एंड ज्वेलरी सेक्टर चलने वाला। गवर्नमेंट में कोई भी पॉलिसी डाले, 10 ग्राम की खरीदी की कोई पॉलिसी लाएंगे तो भी लोग अनऑफिशियली भी के लिए तैयार है। तो मैं मानता हूँ कि गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी थोड़ी अच्छी होनी चाहिए। साथ में रेट की भी इफेक्ट है। एक साल में देखो 2-4 महीने में आप देखते हो सिल्वर का जो रेट है 11-12 हजार में करीब 72 हजार के आसपास गया था, ये बार 77 टच हो गया। गोल्ड भी 57 हजार के आसपास टच हो गया। तो ग्राहक को क्या हो, जो रेट बढ़ता है इसमें इन्वेस्टमेंट करने का मूड बनता है। ये बार भी लोग सोचते हैं दिवाली तक हमारे को 60 हजार का सोना का रेट होएगा तो हमारे को बेनिफिट होएगा। इन्वेस्टर है, नहीं है ऐसा नहीं, ग्राहक भी है, पर गवर्नमेंट की पॉलिसी के हिसाब से मैं मानता हूँ। और कंज्यूमर को जो होता है कि भाई हम इन्वेस्टमेंट करते हैं, इसमें लॉस होता है, कुछ परेशानी होती है, तो ये हिसाब से थोड़ी खरीदी में दिक्कत आती है। पर मैं मानता हूँ ये जेम सेक्टर चलने वाला है, अच्छी तरह से चलेगा। थैंक यू।
नहीं शांति भाई, लेकिन ये प्रॉब्लम ज्वेलरी के साथ ही है, बुलियन के साथ ये प्रॉब्लम नहीं है। जब 1 लाख का पैन कार्ड की बात होती है तो बुलियन में भी वही चीज एप्लीकेबल है। अगर ओल्ड ज्वेलरी बाय करना है तो बुलियन भी बाय करेंगे तो भी उसमें
सेम ही है, दोनों में सेम ही है, ऐसा नहीं। मैं
और बार बार मुझे एक बात समझ में नहीं आती है कि बार बार ज्वेलरी वाले ये क्यों बोलते हैं कि गवर्नमेंट हमारे लिए कुछ करे।
गवर्नमेंट अपने लिए कुछ नहीं करे, पर गवर्नमेंट का इश्यू ज्यादा नहीं आना चाहिए अपने लिए। देखो आप अभी ज्वेलरी बाजार जाना है तो लॉकडाउन के हिसाब से आपको लोकल ट्रेन बंद है, मेन कोई इश्यू है तो किसी तरह से आप काम पे जा सकते हैं। तो लोग को डर क्या होता है कि ये गवर्नमेंट की जो कोई इंफॉर्मेशन आती है, रेड होती है, ये होएगा, तो ये टेंशन गवर्नमेंट का वो है। गवर्नमेंट से अपने को कुछ नहीं चाहिए, पर गवर्नमेंट जो नई पॉलिसी बताते हैं कि भाई हम इनकम टैक्स में इतना डिक्लेयर करना पड़ेगा, ये बताना पड़ेगा, पासपोर्ट बताना कि भाई आप बाहर जाएंगे 20 हजार से ज्यादा आपने होटल खर्चा किया तो दिखाना पड़ेगा, तो लोग अनऑफिशियली काम ज्यादा करें, जो कॉर्पोरेट वाले है होते हैं ऑफिशियली काम करने वाले लिमिटेड वर्क हो जाता है। लोग को क्या होता है, आपने सेविंग मेरे को दिया, अपनी वाइफ को दिया, तो ये लाख रुपए की सेविंग की ज्वेलरी लेने को जाएंगी तो पैन कार्ड कैसे देगी बताओ आप, ये सब इश्यू आता है।
हाँ शांति भाई, लेकिन ये हम हमारे फोरम में डिस्कस कर सकते हैं, हम सरकार को ऐसे जाके थोड़ी बोल सकते
नहीं,
हैं।
सरकार को बोलने की, सरकार सुनती, सरकार को तो अपने से ज्यादा मालूम होता है कैसे बिजनेस होता है।
हाँ शांति भाई बोली बोली।
तो अपनी गवर्नमेंट को तो क्या है, आईएएस ऑफिसर बैठे हो, उनको तो अपनी इमेज से मालूम हो जाता है कि इतने, देखो आज की तारीख में गवर्नमेंट को मालूम है अनऑफिशियली गोल्ड हिंदुस्तान में कितना आ रहा है, उसको नहीं मालूम ऐसा नहीं है। पर वो तो क्या है, उनको तो क्या है, कस्टम ड्यूटी बढ़ाने का सोचते हैं, घटाने का कभी नहीं सोचेंगे ना, वो तो रहने वाला है।
चलिए शांति भाई, इस टॉपिक पे हम बाद में वापस आते हैं।
सर,
सोम सुंदरम सर जी का एक वर्ल्ड गोल्ड काउंसिल का बहुत बड़ा प्रोजेक्ट है, रिटेल गोल्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट प्रिंसिपल, और ये मेरे ख्याल से जो सब शांति भाई बात कर रहे हैं उसी के ऊपर है। सो आई विल आस्क सोम सुंदरम सर. Sir, you have heard from the horse's mouth. Shanti Bhai is known to be a big jeweler, and you know he himself runs an organization, Gem and Jewelry Trade Council of India. He is our Gujarat president also. And in nutshells, he has explained what is the problem with the jewelry. Now, with all this problem, how do you think in a country like India we will be implementing this retail gold investment principle?
Yeah, obviously there is a committee. We have got almost who is who in that committee. So I will also post this question to you, but let me answer you with what I know as of now. You see, this is not very peculiar to India. When you come to physical gold buying, it's not that only in India physical gold buying, all these issues are there. Globally, everywhere there are same issues, it's just that the scale differs. And when you have a country with so much passion for gold, not doing something about it, appears like a dark spot in a absolutely white cloth. That's the way it is. Now, coming back to how we will implement it, I think if you really look at it, 2005, we had hardly about 2, 3, 4, 5% of the trade in the so-called organized big trade. By organized means they will issue invoices, you walk to them, they'll do all that kind of stuff. They will have an enterprise system, etc. Today, if you look at it, it is already around 35 to 40%. Even jewelers have moved into this. Okay, as Shanti Bhai ji said, there are still issues. You can't, because of the customs duty, etc. When you want to follow all the processes and you have somebody else not wanting to follow the process, the consumer will always go to that other person. Now, that is something which will have to be controlled. And the whole idea of RGIP, Retail Gold Investment Principle, is this is not just for India. It's a global set of principles. And we will have how each one will probably have a code or a code of conduct in this. My point is, those who sign up to it, we will have a self-regulatory mechanism for that. But if you don't follow it, the entire industry must come and say, we're not going to deal with you. Not immediately. I'm not saying, see, this is a multi-year project. You have to bring even the smallest player on this platform. The advantage is, assuming that you have a particular brand, that I am part of RGIP India, let's assume, or world. Anybody walking into that store will know that, okay, if I buy from him, I will get pure, my price, I will not have to worry, he will give me the invoice, he would have paid taxes, whatever we are coming with a code of conduct, we still haven't framed it up. Then, what happens is, even the smallest person is as good as the big person. So it will work in favor of small players, but they have to obviously follow certain processes. I am confident that actually when the smaller players see the benefits of RGIP, today if you are a tourist, if you have a foreign tourist, they say, I want to buy gold. What do? You take them to some big shops because that's where you have confidence or whatever. tomorrow, if you say that, look, all these guys are signed up to RGIP, they have been audited, they have a self-regulatory mechanism, you don't have to worry. What does, again, I'm not saying the same thing. What does LBMA refinery mean? There are only about 70 people. What you say is there is an institution, they signed up to a certain set of practices, and if you go to that refinery, you're okay. So the banks are also comfortable. Of course, you have to make them comfortable. Similarly, when you say RGIP, and if you have a self-regulatory mechanism, you can say that anybody can walk into any shop which is RGIP compliant, and you will have the same kind of trustworthiness. So I am confident, because in India, normally we hate incremental changes. Of course, we'll keep doing it. It's either this or this. 180 degrees is how we move. I mean, how many of us would have believed India will be driving the digital economy of the world some years back? Illiteracy, language problems. It's all actually spurring innovation in digital. If somebody wants to test something, they come to India because of the diversity extra. So I am very confident, but obviously a lot of work needs to be done.
Shivanshu, coming back to you, how commodity exchange can help in such a kind of scenario, what Shanti Bhai has said specifically with regard to jewelers. And see, I have always dreamed of, why even a 1 gram coin is not cannot be purchased through the exchange platform. So what are your plans? See, because when we talk of making gold as an asset class, I think purity, transparency, safety, security, all this goes together. And I think Ajay ji very nicely explained that in Dubai, if they can cancel your license if the gold is not pure. So how exchange is going to help us? I'm sure Som Sundaram sir, with the Bullion Exchange Committee we formed, with the India Good Delivery Committee, will be successful in retail gold investment principle also. It might take some time. Shivanshu, your turn, please.
Yes, thanks, Surendra. I think what Som has said and what they are doing via this initiative is very pertinent, absolutely pertinent, because it's, while there are standards which exist at the stages of mining and refining, and I'm sure I agree that there are OECD principle-based auditors which also audit jewelry exporters, to give them an internationally acceptable certification. But that's fine, that's good. But then what Shanti Bhai is saying and what Som is saying, if it has to all marry together into one, it basically means that there has to be a quality consciousness, an organized sector-based approach, and a standard-based consciousness of processes, not only product, process, whether it's raw materials, supply chain, etc., till the very end, the customer experience. So all of this has to be an industry-based awakening or consciousness, which has to be driven together with the help of course, standards. Now, what we can do, since jewelry is actually the next stage, but definitely at the bullion stage, in order to enable, the standardization of the gold, which is going to be recycled, we on our part, along with other exchanges, are also doing our bit to get the Indian good, gold, the refiners who pass very stringent audit processes of quality, of technical capability, refining and assaying ability, as well as who clear the financial audits, they would be permitted to be part of the MCX good delivery list, and other exchanges have also done. And this will be basically based around BIS standards, the India Good Delivery Standard, which yourself, Mr. Somasundaram and so many others helped evolve over 2017, 18, and 19. And it finally came in January, on the January 15th by the BIS, it got notified. So actually that standardization will help to recycle the gold, convert it into an exchange deliverable bullion in a class of refiners who have cleared certain benchmarks, who are above certain benchmarks. Now, to further mobilize this into the jewelry industry, okay, at least one hurdle will be crossed. So the next can be like what Som has mentioned, that the retail, the standards which are built around the entire value chain, and then that revolution will come that Shanti Bhai can see that, okay, today somebody walks into a store and everybody's giving an invoice, everybody is happy to purchase that gold with a certi-card or a certificate. It is unitized, it is standardized. So that kind of a vision can happen. We on our part are doing our bit towards it. As regards your question about 1 gram, so very, very rightly said that 1 gram also is a standardized product today. It comes with a certi-card, an individual certificate, and it comes with a tamper-proof packing. And so ultimately an investor has a surety that I'm buying an exchange traded product. I can hold it electronically, I can accumulate it and take it home as and when I desire, when it becomes, let's say, 10 kg. So there is a transparency in pricing. The making charges are over and above the traded price. So these are some of the things. So this whole comprehensive, if I may say, reality can only happen when this goes beyond the bullion stage into the jewelry stage and the entire ecosystem. And we are happy to play our part in that, sir.
Thank you, Shivanshuji. Ajayji, when we talk of Dubai, everybody says in Dubai gold is a currency, but in India gold is a commodity. So how do you see this difference, and how do you see this gap getting filled up in a country like India, and why it is why it is so that in Dubai gold is more popular? It is and why in India it is still treated as a commodity and still the importance is given to the currency. So what do you think Indian government should do, or how to fill up this gap, basically?
I think the first and foremost, it is the acceptance of the importance of this sector to the GDP of the economy. This is the key difference between Dubai and India. Now, in Dubai, the importance of this sector is recognized, and this sector is well supported. Of course, there's always room for improvement. Whereas in India, the mindset is always from the point of view of its effect on balance of payments. It is seen as a drain on foreign exchange, because it is seen, gold's consumption is seen as a consumption demand. The policymakers often tend to overlook the export of gold and jewelry, which will not be possible without imports. So if you look at the exports of gems and jewelry, they will not be possible if there was no import of gold into the country. So if you see the net impact, import minus exports, plus the other benefits that Shanti Bhai also referred to in terms of employment generation in the country that the sector contributes to, if you look at everything on a consolidated basis, it would reveal a different picture altogether. So the first thing what we need in India is a change in how this sector is looked at by the policymakers. That's the key thing. And once it is treated as an integral part of the mainstream economy and the mainstream economic life cycle, then the rest will follow. Then we will have all the entire infrastructure that other speakers are talking about. We will have the bullion banking, we will have the spot exchange, we will have the India good delivery system, we will have the India responsible sourcing guidelines, we will have the competitive customs duty and taxes, we will have a framework to buy on the exchanges, there will be different contracts on the exchanges, there will be liquidity, there will be price discovery within India. All of this will follow. So long as this mindset is there in the current form, it is affecting the implementation of all of these things. So it is basically at the top level an acknowledgement of the importance of this sector to the economy. And once it happens, everything else will trickle down. That, in my view, is the basic difference between the two economies.
Pinakin, can you just explain the ambitious plan of BSE with regard to making gold as an asset class?
Surely, sir. So BSE has started its journey as a universal exchange on October 1st, 2018, making it an exchange where all the asset classes can be traded, be it equity derivatives, currency, commodities, debt, mutual fund. And we are in this constantly evolving and dynamic market. So change and bringing new is the only endeavor that has been on our minds. And in that, one of the key elements that we figured out was, discovering the new products, which is the key or need of the hour. We had launched options on goods contract on 1st June 2020, and we have launched this contract in gold mini and silver kg variant. Now the uniqueness of this contract is it gives you the choice to trade in an options contract, but settles at the rate of the spot rate. So it does not devolve into the futures. So you can continue with your positions by just paying a mere small premium. You can ensure your price, you can lock your price, you can hedge yourself, mitigate your risk. If I'm a small trader or a retail participant, I can participate in the rally by just paying a minuscule premium, small amount as a premium, and be a part of the move of gold and silver. Coming to the deliveries, yes, we have been able to deliver. So one can opt for taking deliveries or giving deliveries on this platform as well. So it fulfills all the functionalities of the price movement, the deliveries, and the highest volume that we achieved was 5,000 crores plus on in the last week itself. So coming to the thing, that is one aspect. So another aspect that we are working on, as Mr. Shivanshu Mehta also added, that we've been constantly working on India Good Delivery standards, which Surendra Bhai, Som sir, and everyone is a part of the committee. And we have identified the process is all laid down, and very soon we shall be announcing our own ways and methods of moving ahead in that. And we are on the verge of finalizing that as well. So the intent is to constantly bring out new products, new ways to expand the market, the horizon, and to make the markets more bigger, more wider, so that everyone has a play here, and people can come and make the most out of it. With sovereign gold bonds, BSE also being one of the exchanges, leading exchanges, where a sovereign gold bond is bidded, and retail participants have been able to bid for sovereign gold bonds. And off lately, the last tranche, which got completed in the last week itself, saw a record a subscription of 3,300 plus crores in the bond. So, various other products like these are catching, and, gold, the yellow metal has been the flavor. So our intent is to make market much more bigger and wider, so that each and every one of us has the role in it.
Thank you. Kunal, Pinakin has brought one interesting facts, that paperless products are getting more popular than the physical bullion or jewelry. We can say at least they are entering into, or they are taking away the market of the jewelry. So what do you think? What is the future of such product in a country like India?
Yeah. So let us shift back to the overall what used to be the landscape in India. So whenever you talk about investment for all the women who are buying gold in India, there was no concept of paper gold at all a few years back. So if my wife is buying a jewelry at some point of time, I would think that I'm owning gold. So that is the perception which people were living with it. But now the things are changing, because gold has emerged as an asset class over last 5, 8, 10 years. It has evolved as an asset class. So when you talk about an asset class, you cannot just physically buy a gold. So the entire, if you look at the financial market instrument, the way the equity market, there was a manual demat which was going on. So, and now we have moved to a demat electronic transfer of shares. The same way, for any asset class to emerge, the paperless product has to play a big role. And that is what has happened on the global front and even in India. So if you see what has happened in the sovereign gold bond scheme introduced by the government, it's a major hit. So initially, to start with, people were reluctant, people were not very keen. But now, once they understood the scheme, they started to invest in these electronic products. So I think going forward, the investment, whenever there is an investment, all these paper products will definitely are going to play a big role in the market. Jewelry is not going to be considered by a lot of people as an investment. They will probably buy it as a form of love towards the jewelry, like that. But if I want to buy gold, I will not invest in jewelry. I would definitely buy either a gold bar or any gold product or gold coins. So where I'm not going to lose out on the making charges when I go and in market and sell it. So I think the paper products are in and they are going to stay. And I think in India, globally also, what we saw last 6 months of gold's bull run, it's not a central bank buying, it's not a jewelry buying, it is only the ETF buying and the investment demand. So it's the paper products which is driving the actual gold prices, and even for that matter, silver prices. The silver ETF demand has shot up in last 4 months. So I think the dynamics of the market is changing, but jewelry will have its own part. It is a part which is not going to go, and the jewelry demand will also contribute, and it will also show tremendous amount of growth in years to come.
One last question to everyone. Ajay ji, we are short of time. Ajay Mathur ji. One last question to everyone. I will start with Santi bhai. Santi bhai, अपने पोर्टफोलियो में गोल्ड कितना % होना चाहिए? क्विक आंसर.
हर फैमिली को अपनी पोर्टफोलियो में जो इनकम सोर्सेस है इसका 15 से 20% होना चाहिए. 15 से
20% होना चाहिए. लेकिन अभी कुणाल भाई ने क्या बोला कि जो सोवरिन गोल्ड बॉन्ड है वो आपका वो ज्वेलर्स लोगों का मार्केट खत्म कर रहा है. मैं आज सुबह कैलकुलेट कर रहा था, पिछले 6 महीने में 8,500 करोड़ रुपए का सोवरिन गोल्ड बॉन्ड बिका है. यदि मैं उसको 1.5 लाख ज्वेलर से डिवाइड करता हूं तो लगभग एक ज्वेलर का 8-8 लाख रुपए का बिजनेस खत्म हो गया. तो ये बहुत बड़ी बात है. चलिए, आपका कहने का मतलब है 15% के आसपास. शिवांशु जी, आई थिंक पिनाकिन जी, पहले आप बता दीजिए आपके हिसाब से कितना पोर्टफोलियो होना चाहिए.
I would go with 15 to 20% of your portfolio should be diversified with gold as an asset class, because the simple reason, see, gold acts as a natural hedge against inflation. So in tough times, in the times like in the crisis times, when we have seen any geopolitical tension, anything going haywire anywhere across the globe, we have gold coming to the rescue of your portfolio. So I would go for 15 to 20%. It becomes a natural hedge against inflation, and any geopolitical tension, any crisis, gold has been performing over the years. We've seen 2008 crisis, we've seen the current crisis, the COVID crisis. So I would go for 15 to 20%.
Ajay ji, you need to tell me two things. Dubai, how much percentage people have gold portfolio in Dubai, and what do you recommend for India?
I think it's not a simple answer as that in terms of a percentage. You have to look at the economic cycle we are in before taking a decision on what percentage should be allocated to gold. So if you are looking at the current scenario where there is uncertainty brings up the safe haven aspect of gold, and it's always beneficial to have more allocation to gold in periods of uncertainty. But when you're talking about stable economies, stable periods in the economic cycle, then those percentages will reduce. So in the current scenario, I would tend to agree with other panelists with 15 to 20% allocation. But in the normal economic cycle, 7 to 10% is the norm. So 10% is what people generally take it as. And also in the bullion markets, there used to be a saying that invest 5%. In the past, they used to say 5%. They used to say invest 5% in gold and hope that gold doesn't do well. Because if gold doesn't do well, that means other sectors are doing well and the 95% of the portfolio will do well. So that used to be the saying in the bullion markets in the past. But I guess nowadays it's the 10% norm that people are following. And in an economic situation like current, 15 to 20% benefits people. But also another point is that the price at which you get in. So that is also very important. So if you get in at 2000 levels, the upside is restricted, and then we have seen fluctuations. So we have seen gold go down by $200 in less than 24 hours. So then a late entrant can possibly suffer. So you have to balance it out accordingly.
Somasundaram ji, what is your idea about percentage gold holding in the portfolio?
We have already issued a report on gold as a strategic asset. We have said that overall 5 to 15%. We have even suggested that even institutional funds like provident funds and pension funds and insurance, etc., if they hold it across, then their returns over the long period of time, we have back tested it, would have been higher by 60 to 75 basis. So our suggestion is long term. I'm not getting into how much you should hold immediately, etc. Long term, depending on the risk profile, how much equity you are exposed, how much debt you are exposed, how much real estate you are exposed, depending on your profile, 5 to 15% long term, you should always be invested in gold.
Thank you. And Kunal, what is your opinion on this?
Yeah, so I would like Mr. Ajay said, it's person to person, okay. But I think in a time where the monetary debasement, what we are seeing is something what we have not seen in century. This kind of monetary debasement is really asking for gold to keep in your portfolio as a strategic investment and obviously a structural asset right now. We don't know what is going to happen 1.5, 2 years down the line. We are in an uncharted territory. So in this kind of time, I would say 15% is the right number because if something goes wrong, because this kind of monetary experiment. So after Japan, now US is also falling in the same trap. Europe is also falling under the same trap. So if the things are not working, whatever central banks are doing is not able to bring the desired result, then I think it is going to be the gold only, which is going to remain the ultimate investment in such an uncertain time. So 15% is the right number.
Very rightly said. I think we are going to get the vaccine for the corona, but where will be the vaccine for the economy? It will probably will require another 2-3 years to get that vaccine. With this note, let me conclude this, and we all agree. But I am surprised, Somasundaramji. One last question to you. While everyone said 15 to 20%, you said 5 to 15%, and you are World Gold Council. Why it is so?
Well, that is why our reports have more credibility. It is very easy to come in. Have to go for a 30%, etc. That's not what we do. First of all, we don't advise on investment. We are saying based on facts and back testing, a 5 to 15% in any portfolios have been shown to increase your returns, and we have proved it across each country and for India, and also reduce volatility. So now I can't say what people should invest in. That's not what we say. We are only saying 5 to 15%. If you steadily keep it, then you have a very sound portfolio. You increase it to 30. That's why I said I'm not giving an advice. At what stage will you bring it down to 15? Then you become an investment advisor. Now that we will leave it to the respective people. We are not investment advisors. We just speak about the benefits of holding gold.
Well, thank you so much, all the panelists. I think we all agree that gold has always been a strategic asset and will always remain a strategic asset, especially for India, where the passion for gold, passion for yellow metal is there. Thank you so much. Over to you, Deepika.
Thank you very much, panelists. It was a wonderful session. We look forward to having you in future. It was really great to hear all the panelists. And it's a pity that we had to close this session because the time is up. But can we take a question, Mr. Surendra Mehta?
No. I think Som sir and everybody has to leave.
Okay.
Shivanshu is already on a call. He wanted to leave in between.
Okay.
Please.
Okay. Thank you once again, panelists, for a brilliant session. Mr. Surendra Mehta, Mr. Somasundaram, Mr. Shivanshu Mehta, Shantibai Patel, Kunal Shah, Mr. Pinakin Dave. All of you, thanks a lot. Thank you very much. See you then. You can log off.